It's like 20 seconds apparently. Let me know if you can do that already. Set up the bat signal, which we going on the line. No idea how many viewers we have, which is all very bizarre to me. Bifford, I'm live. Come chat. If on the YouTubes. Hey Dave, how's it going? YouTube keep telling me that my resolution is not optimal for streaming and I can't do anything about it. So let me know if anything's not changing or anything. If everything sounds okay, that's just tweak this first. Hopefully minutes of the stream and then we'll get it. Let me know if I'm loud enough or things like that. I think I might be a bit quiet. Looking at my OBS. Let's adjust these settings. You can't hear me at all. Check 1 2, check 1 2. The music is a bit louder. Okay. It's like intro is still playing. Okay, is that a better setup for everyone? Hey, Fulvio, thanks for joining. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Loads of echo, right. bit louder. Okay. Better now. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Loads of echo. Right. Alright, okay, I think that's audio fixed, I want to say. Hey, Doug, how's it going? Yeah, good to meet you as well. Good to finally say hi after months of chatting on Discord. Can people in the chat just confirm that this is now working properly? Success! Right. Awesome. So, right, let me try and set up this laptop screen properly. Ah, that's my OBS. Okay, right. So fortunately, I still had it on my full screen camera whilst I was trying to arrange my laptop screen that's down below just to make sure that I can see the chat going as well. But yeah, so welcome. Thank you for bearing with me for the haphazard start to this stream. So it's going to be a pretty loose format. We're going to kind of go through the LGT starting from the Friday night RTT all the way through to round 5. And just give my general impressions on the entire event, the breakdown of each games, and how I felt I performed and what I could have done better. But also, I'm willing to answer any questions at all. The one thing I will not be commenting on is I'm aware there's a tiny bit of probably making a mountain out of a molehill controversy surrounding the final. I've seen in the Discord today. I will not be commenting anything about that because I was not at the final. I'm not part of the referee team. I'm not part of the TO. So any questions about what I think of such and such that happened in the final, I won't be talking about. All right, does that sound good to everyone? If so, we will get cracking. Okay, is that the mic fixed now? Please. At least the music is good, right? Copyright-free music. Just waiting for the chat. Yes! Huzzah! So I forgot to add the fix to the other scene in OBS. If anyone doesn't know about OBS, you have multiple scenes. That's how you do the super smooth transitions between Big Chris and Little Chris on a cardboard box. Yeah. So I'm just going to start talking about RTT again because I don't know how long you have been without audio for. So basically, got there. It was 12. It was a bit later than I was used to, but it was fine. Innes was running around like an absolute mad hatter, meeting all of his friends they hadn't met up before. We had a lovely day in London previously where we met up with Martine, and we had a pumpkin spice latte with him and a little wander. So that was awesome. Round one of the RTT, I was up against Custodes. So let's go and find the Custodes map that I was playing against. Here we are. So this is the Custodes map. If I just zoom in a little bit. Yeah, it's pumpkin spice. It's sickly sweet, isn't it? Yeah. So we were playing Scorched Earth, and I was facing off against Custodes. This is a photograph of the deployment that we had going, and if memory serves, it was Sam's Custode. So as you've seen from the Facebook page, I was able to win that one. Sam did go first, and it was I was saying it's a pretty standard-ish Custodes list, where you've got double Venetari, you've got a Talman in there to kind of be that anchor of the line. You got Trajan, you got the Bike Captain, a couple of Shield Guard squads, and the weird part for me was there was a squad of Alaris Terminages in there to go along with the Vexilla with the Minds One to Hit banner. But having played it, I now understand why those Alaris were in there. And apologies for the rotation of the photograph. I cannot be bothered to change it, so we'll have to make do. One thing I wanted to know is that my opponent, I think it's Sam, Sam, put nothing over here. Nothing over here. And as you can see, I've got Raiders down here and over here as well, which can quite happily jump over there. In fact, that's what I did. I just took this Witch Raider here with the Blood Brides and the Succubus, and I sent them over here in this direction with the 22-inch move that Raiders get to sit behind this wall. And I took raised banners this game, and I quite happily had these 3 banners up for most of the game. And this one I defended for a couple of turns before I was eventually pushed back. The mandrakes that I used to screen out and stop banners being raised in return from the Custodes. But yeah, my Raider was angled slightly this way to force this Dreadnought to come out in the first turn if you wanted to shoot at it because of this big blocking bit right here. So let's switch back to this map because that map is slightly easier to follow. So basically, Custodes went like this, and I went like that, and I don't have any. I don't know how I can draw on this, just as a screen. But basically, we turned it into a hammer and anvil, and that's what Drukhari do best. At the end of the day, they just find the weak flank and pressure it till it collapses. In this case, the weak flank was very easy to pressure because there was no Custodes, as I said, holding this objective. None. There was nothing. The only resistance I came across in my adventure up this flank was a squad of Venatari dropping down here. Now, the one really cool play that Sam pulled off, which I had entirely forgotten about, and I'm sure Dave, who phrases who likes his custodes, is face palming at this, is I think it was turn 2. He advanced his Vexilla out to here, right on this little cluster of 4 little dots. This building, where I had 15 Incubi Jazar. I was moving across my Fighty Archon and my Succubus, who jumped out of the radar. Need to get my MS Paint skills up. Well, maybe I can... Will this let me draw on other things? I have an idea. Hang on. Yeah, Dave's got it. The Vexilla teleport Homer. 1 second. How about I do this? Copy that. And then paste it into... Will that work? Hey! There we go. Now I can draw on this. Although the zoom is a bit of a pain. Yeah. So, Custodes, Drukhari. Happy fun days. We played it in a Hammer and Anvil, and also hi Matty, thanks for joining. Yeah. So Vexilla so the Vexilla, if what was the... So the Vexilla, let's use yellow for the Custodes because they're custard creams at the end of the day. The Vexilla was over here, and the teleport and the boys in the golden Alaris Terminator armor went something like that, and then just charged in, killing off 5 Incubi and 4 Incubi. Basically, one of the Alaris could get into one squad. The way I deployed and how I kind of predicted I was going to get charged here. I didn't think it would be charged quite in this manner. I was 1 inch back from this wall here and here. And that did not leave enough of a gap for an Alaris base to fit the other side of the wall. So only one Alaris could actually make it up here to engage downward onto a squad. It was purple Incubi, so I had a purple Incubi squad like so, along this way, and then I had my blue Incubi squad like this way, protecting the larger red man squad, because I didn't take casualties from the radar, and Drazar, who will do in a grey. You're only here for Custodes as well, Maddie? Alright, well, I suppose you could be going after that. Yeah, so they came in, they wiped out a bunch of dudes, and there was a situation where I had now this very immovable rock in my deployment zone. I mean, the large Terminators, if you don't know, they could take a beating. I knew I was, with the rest of the Custode army, basically within this kind of shape here, apart from like one squad chaining back like that. You're talking, you got the big dreadnought up here, you got the bike captain, you got Trajan, you've got a squad of Venatari, pro MS Paint skills here, right? All coming in this direction. Then I don't have resources to push this flank with my Drukhari and also fight over here. So I decided to just put enough pressure there to make it sure that they would never cross this line. And I would control half of this board, and they would have half of this board. And I would win because of the secondaries that I took. Because I also decided to send a Succubus off over here to wipe out this squad. So that's kind of how that game played out. We'll take a look at the score sheet. So as we can see here, I got perfect primary. maxed Yard the Prey, maxed to the last, and Razor Banners High was a pretty safe 10, I figured, in that mission. Pushed for more whenever I could. I also tried to really stop the Custodes raising banners early in the game. Just by throwing units onto the objectives. I knew I couldn't control them. I just threw stuff at him, really. And of course, grind them down was very good for Sam and his Custodes there. It's Drukhari. You've got so many units compared to Custodes armor. You're not gonna unless they literally cannot roll a 3-up invulnerable save. You're not gonna kill more in a turn than they can. I just made sure that whenever he only killed one unit, I would try and match that, which I think is what happened in round 1. No, in round 1 he advanced his Dreadnought, so he never actually killed anything. Because of the Mandrakes, as we saw in the previous picture, were hiding behind the building here. So before we move on to game 2, does anyone have any questions about that game? Anyone wonder what? Is there any information you want more from that game? I'll take this time to say, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please. See if the chat has any questions. If anyone's curious, my Vec target was the double shoot stratagem, or the ×2 shot stratagem for the Flyboys. All right, I'm going to move on to the second game so the stream doesn't last all night. But if I see any questions pop up in the chat, I will, of course, do my best to answer them. So, let's go dig out the... Oh. Most interesting thing is always how why you choose game plans. Yeah, so, yeah, the real question was how was the food between rounds? And how was... Okay, so Doug, yeah, it's definitely how and why you structure the game plan. That's why I'm going to do in this stream and breaking it down. Just this channel is just designed to, or it's supposed to be designed to take a lower level competitive player to a medium level competitive player, which is what I count myself as. So the lessons I've learned, and knowing, and in this match it was knowing when you could or could not press advantages. Because those you can't just run through them; you need to run around them. Particularly as playing under Drukhari army, you have the speed. You are Sonic the Hedgehog. How was the food between rounds, Manny? The food was not great at LGT. I think, Doug, if you tried the food at the venue, wasn't great. In fact, on the Sunday, I ordered myself a KFC. I spent the same amount of money and got far better quality food delivered to the venue. Yeah. But I gather it was better than previous years. That's what I will say. All right, so game 2, which I don't have a screenshot of my deployment, but it was against Victor and his World Eaters. So let's go and find the mission and map for that. Here you are, safe and clear. Snippy toe. Yeah, our Beth Pod dinner was amazing. That was ace. Right, how on earth do it? New. Don't save. There we go. MS Paint to the rescue once again. Yeah, so oh hey Nicholas. Yeah. Saturday with 5 guys, Sunday some katsu curry, yeah. Yeah, Matty, bring a picnic with you. Yeah, I was going to bring in meal deals with me, but I couldn't be bothered walking to Marston's. So this is super clear. So the secondary for this one is hold the middle. So this is the important objective. Why give me brush, you fool? Yeah, this is the important one. This one here. That's if it's not clear yet. This is what you need to hold in this mission. But I'm sure it will be clear for everyone here. No, don't erase the map. There we go. So most armies basically say in this mission, this is mine. And this is yours. And we're fighting here. So that's how this mission tends to flow. The mission secretary is hold 3 points. Is gain 3 points at the end of your turn if you hold the middle objective. My army loves that because I have a couple of throwaway units, and then the serious stuff comes out to play, which just takes you off of the center. So in this mission, what I typically like to do is I like to put so use blue for the Witch Cult Raider because the bases are blue. The Witch Cult Raider slightly behind here, poking over. I don't care about the obscuring. I'm too long to be obscured anyway. But that way they can disembark that direction into the building quite handily, or they can disembark along here and gain the benefits of obscuring if there's nothing scary shooting in that direction. So which raider goes there? We'll do my Incubi Raider. They're slightly yellow, so we'll do yellow. Incubi Raider goes along with them, along with the 15 Incubi. Sorry, the 5 Incubi I have extra. They stand out just in front. When this raider dies, the other Incubi can disembark like that and gain cover, or this way and gain cover, and then they're rocking that 2-up save. Then I put my Trueborn Raiders like so, and the Court of the Archon can quite comfortably sit in here. But typically what I like to do as well is put my 5 Witches with the movement drug, just so they can yeet themselves out there turn 1. Easy offset, gets on there. I think they need like a 2-inch advance, something like that, to get to the middle. Maybe slightly less, maybe it's a 1-inch advance. I think it's 2 if you're away from the wall. The army I was playing against was War Eaters. They did have a few guns. They had so I think it was Karn, Exalted Champion with some sort of movement warlord trait. I think it was a +1 advance to charge in an aura around them warlord trait. A couple squads of Chaos Cultists, 1 shooty, 1 slappy. I think it's then 4 times 5 Khorne Berserkers with the chain axes, the chain swords, and lightning claws. I think it was. Then there was us. Then there was 3 squads of 3 mutilators and then it was Dario Deo and some contemptors, I want to say, round out his list, and then there were some Deathclaw drop pods. I can't. The reason why I don't remember exactly what shooting was there was because I never let it shot, and I'm not saying that to be harsh. Literally, it shot away the 5 witches I aforementioned which was out in the middle. It didn't really shoot a raider at all because my opponent decided to deploy his shooty units all behind here, and with these 2 massive buildings, it made it very easy to just not get shot at. Yes, it was mutilators. It was so if anyone who doesn't know what mutilators do, please do let me know because they never fought me. I just killed them. I think they're like melee obliterators. I kept thinking they had guns. Yeah, so what my opponent did was they dropped in turn 1 Deathclaw pod there. And let me Let me clear out all of this. Ah, too far. There we go. So Deathclaw Pod. Just to get, I think, a model on the objective and to score engage, because they sent some spawn. That's it. That's the mission. They sent some spawn up like that. You can get engaged. I already had my mandrake screening out like this to make sure that a Deathclaw pod wasn't dropping down there, and I made sure my witches, when I put them into the center, were like that. I couldn't quite string out over the two objectives. Those models must be the only one. Yeah, I think so too, Martine. I spent more witches out like that just to make sure that I think it was my court that was in there. Was just safe, or whatever I had in that building was safe. So but then I think it was Leviathan or something came out and shot the witches away, which then gave the Deathclaw drop pods 0 target for a charge, which was a bit weird. So yeah, I killed them with shooting the next turn relatively easily, and because I just sent my raiders out to see them, because windows and aircraft thingies or something like that. It was a way where I could be extremely safe from the Leviathan that was now over here and shoot them away. I think it was sending a troop-on raider up this direction to shoot down that way with the dart lance. So yeah, yes, Matt. It was a very fun list. Debate against as well. So there were two kind of scrapping areas. So there's one up here by this objective, and there's one down here. So once my opponent deep struck in some vigilators into this kind of hole here, I just let him have it. I do not need that objective to win the game. I need the one in the middle instead. I need this one here. So I didn't have anything to shoot one turn, so I did shoot them to try and kill off one squad just to make sure they didn't come and pressure me later on in the game. When he told me they moved 4 inches, it was like, I will never be seeing them. Cool, good to know. One squad of mutineers did go up here, and that's why this is a bit more of a scrap, because there's also a squad of berserkers that came out like this. And yeah, this was basically Incubi and Succubus, and I think there's our Mockingbot in here, whereas Blood Brides, a squad of Incubi, stuff just much run in here. And it was a pretty simple victory because his shooting was so contained in this back rune here. There wasn't too much for me to do. It was just score my points, kill his stuff, so my to the last or wherever I took that game wasn't being threatened. So let's take a look at the score sheet, and then you all can queue up some questions for me about this matchup. Yeah, so I took Direct Assault to the last and Stranglehold. Pretty simple victory. I only dropped 5 points because I couldn't get the control more at any given point. Yeah, it was grind them down. He took so engage. He eventually had no units left to run out into the impasse mid board. Retrieve retires data for 8 points. He never. That's just because again he couldn't get into my quarter. I wouldn't let him. Rod in this mission is pretty sus. I ended up taking it in round 5. But we'll talk about round 5 because that was definitely the most interesting game to talk about from my point of view at round 5 of the main event. But we'll get to that. So yeah, pretty simple win. This put me on 2 wins, 0 losses for the RTT, and there was one other list in my pod which was at that, and that was Skitarii Horde. So one last quick check. Any questions about this matchup before we move on to the Skitarii Horde? Just let me know. and we'll pivot back to this matchup. But yes, the boy is a legend, Matty. I agree. 69 VP. He should have won the game with that straight away, you know. So, Skitarii Horde. Skitarii bloody Horde. Oh, does my head in. Right. So, yeah, that was our deployment. The mission, I think, was overrun. Let's just go and grab it from the rules pack. Gone past it. And chuck it into paint. Don't save, but paste. And zoom in. Yeah, so as you can see, great variety of terrain here. You know, it's not monotonous at all. So just to run you through something interesting on the board is that this objective down here and this one over here is not holdable from within these buildings. You have to be outside it, which is why I made sure I had a bodyguarded Archon in my list. For that shenanigans. I was playing against Ricard from Team Sweden, and I had a very enjoyable game, even though I got absolutely pummeled by him. It was a close victory, but I was not in control of any of my own destinies in this game. So let's break this game down. Losses, you always learn more from them than wins, in my opinion. So when I was put into this game, I predicted this was going to be a loss for myself. I didn't know how bad of a loss it was going to be, but I didn't think my list on this mission had the tools. It's a hold 2, hold 3 mission. So let's take a look at our secondaries by going over to the score sheet. So I took Herd the Prey to the last and raise the banners high. Herd the Prey, my thinking was, hey, I want you to come to me and stay near me. It helps kind of make someone second think about the horsey runaway stratagem when you charge them. For example, the other ones that the other one I took was to the last, and then I took raise the banners high. As you can see, I did abysmally in raise the banners high, and I'll get onto that in a second. Ricard took to the last, raise the banners high, and accretion of knowledge. That is an Adeptus Mechanicus secondary, which says, hey, whenever I kill someone with something special on them, as in a relic or a warlord trait, I get points. So it's like it's like assassinate, but also works for those like sergeants and that are units who can gain a warlord trait or a relic via stratagems. So I mean, the score chart, the score sheet tells you everything, doesn't it? It's a dominating victory to Ricard, 22-point victory overall. So let's talk about it. Let's go to the deployment photo actually. So this was taken just after deployment. Ricard got to go first. You can see, so starting at the bottom here, you can see I've got my Trueborn Raiders, and those are 5 witches down at the bottom there. My Blackheart Archon is over there. My Obsidian Rose Archon is down here with the Blackheart Trueborn. In the middle, I didn't know where to put my Incubi, so I had the Incubi in the middle. With the Mandrakes just in front of them. I didn't really know what to do with the Mandrakes. I didn't want to give him an easy target to get some free kills. I didn't want to give him something to go and tag, get additional movement. I basically didn't want a squad of Rangers yeeting themselves at the board when I didn't want them to. So I hid them, which is my biggest mistake I made. And then up at the top here, you can see I've got my court. You can see just the edge of my Archon's lava base there, and then there's my Witch Raider. So, what happened and why was this my biggest loss of the weekend? So, Ricard, who is an excellent AdMech player, buffed up a squad of Rangers that was here. So his to the lasts were 3 squads of Rangers. He has 4 squads of Rangers. And so he has 1 expendable Ranger unit. He buffed them up to the teeth, with the range, the AP. I think he even went for +1 to ballistic skill here. Anything the AdMeg could want to put on a unit was on this unit. And then he used the Lucius Relic, the Solar Flare, to teleport them over here. So let's go to the map. So, and highlight this properly for you using my lovely MS Paint skills. And not delete the map. So, Ranger Blob here. Buffed up. Yeeted down here. And deployed like so. So they could all see and Daka my court that was down here. Yeah, not my best. Not my best. Those lovely mandrakes I was thinking, I don't know what to do with them. The ones that were just chilling here. Yeah. Let's see, is there any way we could have used those mandrakes to stop that teleportation? So, eating them over here, mandrakes. How about we, I don't know, deploy them like this? Or like, and then have this raider sticking out a bit more. I mean, it's too tall to be hiding anyway. Let's use it to block out this quarter. And then there's no gap here because the mandrakes. Now they're back over here. And then their angle, their line of sight is much, much worse. I know that that's what I should have done. And I couldn't tell you why in the heat of deployment I didn't do it. That would have changed up the entire dynamic of the game. But the one thing about playing AdMech Horde, particularly when it's Lucius, when it's Metallica or Mars, is different beasts. Lucius, you're screening out your backfield constantly until they use a teleport, and it's exhausting, and it often leaves things out in the backfield where you don't want them to be. So yeah. It took me 2 turns to remove those Rangers from my field, and I never really got out my half. I never really did anything too much with my army. It was mostly just trying to clear my objectives to raise banners. So let's talk about the banner situation. So clear up as well. So Ricard also has some infiltrators in his army. He deployed a blob like so and a blob like so. Let's use a different color. Let's use green. It's a couple of infiltrators. 1 turn, they go down like that. That squad charge in and just Ricard's not going for the kill. He's not going to kill anything down here. He just wants to get something on the objective. Something past that line. He's got a squad of the horses over here. Pre-game move. Advanced move. Again, just not going for the hold. Just getting a model on the objective. And then it's the same over here. Horses. Pre-game move. Move. Now, when I lost my raider with the sucker was in at turn 1, I tried to charge out this building using the 2-inch engagement range here from the defense line. But of course, Ricard just says, you know what, I don't fancy this, and runs away. I think over here, I shoot the dogs away with the Trueborn that's inside this building. The horses, but I'm not certain. I think I went for a charge pair or something with the Obsidian Rose Archon. When did I get my first banner up? Because that was definitely the first one. I didn't get a banner point until turn 4, so I don't think I think that was it. He tanks him in vulnerables or something like that. So horse survived. I didn't put anything out to charges. I thought they would die. Horse stays there for a turn. Stop. I'm holding it, but you know, it's a whole 2 missions of money getting 5 primary in the early days. So yeah, so it's a bit of a mess, and Ricard just keeps throwing units. You know, once these guys die, they get thrown onto it, and when they die, he's got some other unit somewhere to charge in. I think there was 3 squads of infiltrators. So the incubi that were in this building down here were just munching through Skitarii, just blending them up. They were standing on a small scrap heap. Yet I couldn't ever raise a banner because he just kept suiciding models on there. You know, Ricard had the history banners were already up and being happy as days. So let's tidy up the board a little bit, and hopefully I will not remove the board from existence. There we go. His tanks were over here. They came down in a small flotilla. Eventually, one of them parked themselves over here. With the help of some Hellions and some witches, I cleaned it up, and I started to make a late game push out up here. But it was kind of too little too late. I'd already lost the game. So I was purely outplayed by Ricard. There's no two ways about it. Lessons learned from this game: do not underestimate the teleportation thing. I know this. I played it when Gavin was using it, but I never saw it in the Alpha Strike. I never had that experience. This is only my second game versus Avmec. Oh, I will say, the Rangers did not kill the court. This is one trick I was very happy with. The Rangers shot into the court, killed 7 members of the 9-person court, leaving a Slith and a Lamian on. The Slith on 1 health and the Lamian on full health because the Lamian has the better leadership. I rolled a morale. I bossed that save because of leadership 9 on the Lamian thanks to Blackheart. And then I yeet a Raider using the 22-inch stratagem. I empty out the Blackheart Trueborn from inside of it. Fling it across. Oh, that's not a very good line. Fling it across to here with the 22-inch move. I run the court out to meet it. And I put it up into the sky until turn 5. And me going on second, it was nice and easy. So I still got my 15 to the last points. That felt good. But yeah, lessons learned from this game. Screening out. Vitally important. Error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming as such view. Okay, whatever. In the chat, let me know if the stream is bad, and I'll try and fix it. Yeah, so the lesson learned from this game: screening out, protecting yourselves properly, secondary choices as well. Banners, I think, is a case of if you're going second, you're not going to get banners up. Particularly versus the Admech card. So find something else. Take no prisoners or something. I don't know. Just don't take banners on this mission versus Admech card or any army that can just get in your face turn 1 because those 2 side objectives are so far up the field, it's kind of easy if they have a forward deploy just to nudge a model in there, and then you can't raise a banner. And then that's you 2 points down, and immediately they have the parity advantage. Alright, that is the RTT. So congratulations to Ricard for winning the RTT, going undefeated. And it's not the last we'll be seeing a Ricard, because I played him in round 4 of the main event, which was a nice surprise. So let's just take a breather. Let's just take a breath. Have a sip of water. Winning the RTT, going undefeated. Anyone got any questions? What did I vect versus Admech? I vected the Rangers gain an extra shot stratagem. He has 4 squads of Rangers, so that's 40 shots each. I did not fancy facing down 60 shots every single time one of those squads shot at me. So I chose to vect that versus him, which he also said was the correct choice. So that felt better. Anyone got any questions? What did I vect versus Admech? I vected the Rangers gain an extra shot stratagem. He has 4 squads of Rangers, so that's 40 shots each. I did not fancy. The mission was overrun, Martine. Every single time one of those squads shot at me. We played it, I think, round 3 of LGT, which he also said was the correct choice. So that felt better. Any other questions before we move on? What did I vect versus Admech? I vected the Ranger. So I just realized that when I unclick the unmute button and you use a preview, you also hear the sound because of how I set up OBS. I was just making sure everything was coming through okay still, so apologies for that. How did I spend the Friday evening? I think I just grabbed dinner with John back in the hotel. It was pretty chill. We had a few drinks. I think Ennis was out doing something. And it's just kept abandoning us. It was great. Peace and quiet. Yeah, sorry, Wrathstar, about the echo. I forgot that whatever I hear, you hear. And Wrathstar, thank you for joining as well. Welcome to the stream. Right. If there's no other questions, shall we mosey on over to the main event? Yeah, so that's the RTT basis real quick, because I came in second place in the end, using the path to victory metric. Matty, describe taste. I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, what, the water? Hey, Ines. Yeah, Path of Victory would have been good for the main event too. It does look like the second place in this screenshot here was using Path of Victory, because it goes 6, 5, and 3. Innes, correct me if I'm wrong, but path to victory is basically the average something. Oh, is it the average placing of all your opponents? Is that right? The later your first loss is okay. Yeah. Ideally, I would have Innes hosting this, but he had work. Strength is okay. I was trying to schedule. Cool. Yeah. So let's move on to the main event, which should be next in the thing. Yeah, that looks to be Grey Knights in the background. Yeah. So main event, round one, I had Grey Knights, played by the lovely Richard. So let's go and find that. So main pack. Uh, Only the finest level of streaming here on Overcharged Plasma Gaming. Oh no! All right, have fun at work, Guinness. Sad times. Come on, notepad, work with me. I think this old laptop that I'm using to stream is not liking the stream, but screw it. It's there. It's a machine. It will do. Yeah. So mission one round of the main event are Grey Knights. This was infantry Grey Knights. There was only one Grandmaster in Nemesis Dread Knight. No other Nemesis Dread Knights in this to speak of. There were, however, 30 Interceptors, 10 Terminators, 3 squads of Strikes, a Librarian, and a Chaplain. This was Prescient Brethren. So it's basically the plan is do a bunch of mortal wounds. Let's hype up the Interceptors with the Falchions who get +1 attack, and go blender people using the reroll ones to hit and wound stratagem that Prescient Brethren get. Give them the words of power, go Untitled Convergence, smash face. There are a couple of key moments I'd like to highlight from this game, but let's go to the deployment photograph. And we'll see. So, learning from my game against Ricard previously, we deploy slightly differently. So, I want to note first of all that in every single one of my games this weekend, including RGT, I should have said my 2 units of 8 Hellions were deep striked, 1 into strategic reserve, 1 into regular deep strike using the webway assault stratagem. So basically being a 2 CP tax to bring those Hellions with me, and I didn't like that attitude of that, so that's definitely going to be something we'll chat about later. You'll see at the bottom of the photograph down here, next to the clock, we have the Librarian and Grandmaster. That's not them actually there. They are in deep strike. I think that was a mistake. So my opponent decided it was too risky, didn't want to get his Grandmaster shot at by a bunch of Dark Lances and Blasters if he went second. So decided to deep strike the Grandmaster, which I get. I understand that. Still a T7 2-up armor save 4 vulnerable model at the end of the day with when you get shot at, redeploy this unit or re-deep strike the unit. So, you know, plenty of options where that model could have gone. It could have gone behind the obscuring ruin over here in the top of the photograph. Could have gone down here in this building. But yeah, I get what was being said there. As soon as Richard also split up the 10-man Falchion Interceptor squad, I wasn't really as worried about them coming in and killing the court in one turn. So that's why I was quite happy with them being kind of on their own in the middle. So we top to bottom of my deployment, we have Incubi Raider, Mandrakes, and Incubi. I was kind of okay with him redeploying a unit with a gate over here, charging in, because either they're charging the Mandrakes and I don't care, they're running into a Raider and I don't care. Also, they can't really get past because of this gap here. You can't cross under my model, so you have to run around. And if the Raider gets cut in the shooting phase, which is very unlikely because of the number of heavy weapons they had left in the field, or once the Dread Knight went, I could just park this side, and then he's only charging something relatively expendable. Witch Raider, Trueborn, happy days. So let's take a look at the scorecard. So I can remember my secondaries. I declare the Praetor, the last one to bore the Witch. Warp Ritual isn't Warp Ritual for whatever reason. My ITC Battle App did not have the new ground secondaries. That's the one where they just cast it on an objective and they get a number of points for how many times they casted it on objectives that they've that they're on. So if they cast it, I think one time they get 1 point, twice they get 3 points, 3 times they get 6 points. So it's ridiculous. So he was able to max that. Engagement front, he only got 5 points on, and ground down he only got 3 points on. So the couple of moments I want to talk about. Let's go over to MS Paint. So one, it was a Grandmaster going into reserve, which I think was a big mistake. I was able to send out the 5 witches. Oh, let's go to brushes. 5 witches that were down here to just deny primary and gain my strength. What did I take? Was it? Just look at this, Chris. Come on. Yeah, just to deny primary, really. Deny him getting the max primary, because I did go for a fairly risky 7-inch charge with a unit of Incubi onto a unit that was behind this wall from the Raider that was standing here. You take landscape. I think that's a 1,000 Sun secondary part-time. So I went for the fairly risky 7-inch charge, so I wasn't sure if that would work, so I chose to also commit my witches to the other side. Those witches end up being beasts, because one, they were screening out this entire flank for me, from the Grandmaster coming in, as well as the Librarian with all the mortal wound powers. So they're screening out that flank. They also tanked like a bunch of stuff in melee as well, and that also came in the objective because he was only running in with combat squad interceptors, and I was just able to boss by 4-ups. On this flank, I was a bit more exposed here, but I ran out the Mandrakes, I think it was. Something like that, just to screen out. No, I didn't even screen out that side. I wanted him to go there, because that's where my Incubi were. Oh yeah, that one actually erased that. So yeah, I was like, yeah, you go wherever you want. I didn't think he could fit in too well. The Incubi ended up finishing their charge behind there, which is super important. So the following turn, let's change color. The following turn, Ricard sends out 2 units of combat squaded interceptors, one like that, and one like that to deal with the incubi. Now I was already flushed against the wall because of how I charged, but Ricard decided to pile in through this building, and this is where I saw the advantage that I could win the game with. I had this incubi raider here. I had 10 incubi in it. I put the 5 incubi that are back here. Yes, the mandrakes were holding the objective. The 5 incubi that were back here after deployment into the raider, and then I put out Drazar into there, and I did a bit of combat shenanigans, which I will go into detail in a second. And then this raider moves up here to push out the screening, and I screen out with the mandrakes back here. So let's clean up the board and explain the shenanigans that I aforementioned. So you've got one squad of interceptors that ended up down here. Now, because he didn't have the whole squad over this line for engage, he put the second squad further this way, meaning that they were like that. And this gap here was less than 3 inches. So what I had was I had Drazar disembark, advance, and get behind this wall. I wasn't too worried about the Overwatch, but why take extra damage when you don't have to? Use and abuse walls. So Drazar ends up, let's do this in a different color. So Drazar disembarks from the raider that was down here, goes there, sits behind this wall. Then he charges in, and my raider moves up as well in the movement phase. This is to make sure that I get tormentors off easily, but the reason why I've highlighted the fact that they're within 3 inches of each other is because I had a plan just in case I didn't have tormentors. Green Knights in melee can kill a disgusting amount of stuff, and I didn't want a chance Drazar dying randomly. So I run in, I tag both squads. Drazar's got on a 40 mil base, so I could tag both squads, be within ninja both. I then pile in to this squad, murder them because it's Drazar, and I'm asking my opponent to basically roll 7 6-up saves and passing 4 of them. And then the trick is, because the other unit, the unit that's back here, isn't within engagement range of any enemy unit, they cannot interrupt. So Drazar then fights twice, piles back in this way, and murders them. I got my tormentors off anyway, so I could just murder the one that I didn't tormentor, and then murder the other one. But no, this is just this was just in case. This is an insurance policy I took out for that play on Drazar, and then Drazar and the Incubi were able to go and clean house over there. The other thing that I decided to do with this game, which is kind of interesting, was I had murdered everything in the Grey Knight's army by using my Hellions to deep strike in on this flank with the witches that advanced in from over here to take out the interceptors that are in this building in the mid game, and also deep strike in like so with another squad to take over this objective. I decided to just not kill the Grandmaster. I'd already matched the board, he's worth 0 points to me, and I didn't want to let Richard get the free movement but from the teleportation stratagem to then come and threaten my objectives. So I said to Richard, you can get your 5 points a turn by holding an objective. You can get your 1 point to max out your whatever secondary the Grey Knights have. So it's fine. I've already won the game. I've gotten 100 points. Let's take a look at that. Take a look at my scorecard. So yeah, pretty brittle for the Grey Knights there. Anyone have any questions about that game? All right. I think stream is caught up now, so few more minutes, just chilling. And then we'll move on to the next game, which is my game against Michael from Vanguard Tactics, and his Death Watch. Oh, that was a fun game. So let's break it down. So let's go over to the rules pack. Grab the lovely screenshot for vital intelligence. Sniffing to new. Let my laptop have a small crash and cry about this. Paste that screenshot in. Zoom it in one touch. Yeah, so Vital Intelligence, this is another Hole 2, Hole 3 mission. This is one of the ones where if you control an objective at the start of your turn, you permanently control it until you are taken off of it. This didn't really come up too much. It came a little bit. But Michael's Death Watch Army basically is designed to take on Drukhari. He was, I found out during the game. That's because he has a psychic power, which gives a unit of his choosing +1 attack and fight first. Which means if you're not sure how combat works these days, I'll run you through it. You have three stages of combat. You have stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And this is fight first, and this is fight last. So when you're in stage 1, you count as charging, you count as fighting first, you are the top priority, and starting with the attacking player, I think, the player whose turn it is, they set the first unit and then it alternates from there. When you're in the second tier of fighting, you have probably just been charged, or you have charged in and you've been told no by a Justicar, by Armor of Rust, something like that. So you've been shoved down a tier. Then you starting with the defending player whose turn it is not. They collect the unit, and then I think the same is true for down here. Now, when you're down here, you cannot be eligible to interrupt combat. You are fighting last. You can only ever go up by 1 tier, and you can only ever go down by 1 tier. So, for example, I have Call of Strife units. They have always fight first. That means they are always starting up here. If they get a fight last mechanic put on them, they are moved down here to stage 2. They're still eligible to interrupt. However, the flip side of that is that if I charge in, I don't get this squared. I just have it once. It doesn't stack. It's not like hit modifiers where you can have +2 to hit, -1 to hit, and still be +1 to hit, for example. So what his Death Watch army is designed to do is designed to say, okay, Incubi, or Ancient Evil Archons, I'm going to stand somewhere where you want to be, such as central objectives and direct assault missions, or any objective that the Death Watch player deems important, and even if you do get a fight last on them, the Death Watch unit still does that. And Death Watch units, when they are, it's very hard to kill them with just one of your units in combat. I can't think off the top of my head any unit that will have a good chance of killing off an entire Death Watch unit because of the 4th invulnerable. This Librarian had the second part, which I think was a 5 up Feel No Pain. I went first. I just played very cagey. What were my secondaries again? Let's take a look. See. I took Stranglehold to the last and retrieve entire stages. So all I cared about was getting a. So I have my Mandrake's done and this down. Oh, let's go to the MS Paint. If anyone has any questions about that fighting, let me know and I will explain it again. I'm going to make a video on it eventually. So I'm in my Mandrakes out, stretched out like that, and then I made sure that they were within 18 of the board edge. Within 16 of the board edge, and then within 24 of the other board edge. So basically, that they were in the Retrieve Octarius data box. That looks something like that. And then they rotted down there. I deployed them over here, so I already had gained permanent control of that objective. I think I actually was searching for both, so I already gained that permanent control, and I just gained I shuffled the Witch Cult Raider that I had deployed over here. So Witch Cult Raider that was there. I advanced it. I just rolled the dice for it into this building here. So yeah, just gained my Stranglehold. Nice easy turn. Didn't really worry about it too much. Michael then responded by deciding to go for a big turn. So let's see. Let's try and keep let's go for the Witch Cult Raider in the blue, and he's in the orange. So one of his Death Watch units ran out like this, and they were backed up by the Ironclad Dreadnought in his list, which I love to see that model. It's a beautiful model. And the captain and everything, they just made a play for this objective. The Librarian, so he had a Bike Chaplain who yeeted himself out to here. So Bike Chaplain, PC, and then he decided to go for a big play, which was the wrap on this raider that is down here, the blue raider. So he had one squad of boys jump out here, and a second squad of boys jump out here. So this was I think a 10-man, and this was a 5-man, which was combat squadded. So that's that's like a 6. And this was a 10-man as well. And this is the Ironclad. So very aggressive turn, but yes, more aggressive because the Death Watch. So Michael decides to teleport using the Death Watch relic. I forget the name of it. 5 Hellblasters out here to shoot at my Incubi Raider that was down here. So they pew 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 pew. They get like 5 hits and 4 of them die for that. That was satisfying to watch. But more importantly, the Libby, who was standing back here, tried to cast that Fight First power on this 10-man squad so that they could then charge in, hold this objective, and not get messed up by Incubi. Michael, that power I believe cast on a 6 or a 7. Michael rolled a 4. He CP re-rolled it into a 4. That was rough. And when he did that, he said, I believe this has lost me the game. And I happen to agree with that. I was still going to charge out that turn, but I wouldn't have been able to pick up that 10-man unit ever. my plan would have been to go with the Ironclad Red Dot and the things that was around it. Michael did manage to, in the charge phase, get a pretty convincing wrap around this raider. However, I used the emergency disembarkation stratagem to disembark 6 inches, so the witch cult units got out behind here, and the succubus was over here in this blue blob over there. Now, I did lose 5 of my blood brides to the disembarkation check. However, after a lot of umming and ahhing, Michael decided to go and tag this unit, and they ended up killing about 4 Space Marines because I decided, let's get some value out of these witches. Let's reroll my wounds and let's double fight. So it's like 5 CP, including the emergency disembarkation stratagem, into protecting this unit. Didn't tag the succubus, that was smart of him, but the witches did work. They killed a fair few of the 10-man unit, which made it very easy for me to deal with the following turn. So I know this is a bit messy, but I don't want to erase it quite yet. The following turn, my incubi, let's use red for this because they're always angry, run out, and the raider, who was left on 3 wounds, so still moving 10 inches, fancies out as well. The raider soaks the Overwatch and unfortunately dies, so the Tormentor is very sketchy at this moment, but I have 3 chances. I've got 3 units of incubi. So I've got 2 units of incubi and Drazar to go in and try and deal with this 10-man unit. And it takes a combat of all 10 incubi and Drazar to deal with them because I do get the Tormentors off. I have a squad of Hellions arrive from Strategic Reserve and charge in here. And then I use my Trueborn that is back in this building to shoot in there. So Michael's kind of not got too much left. I do kill the one last Hellblaster who's alive. I don't pick up the bike chaplain or anything like that. I didn't have the resources to. I pick up, effectively over 2/3 of his Deathwatch Marines in that turn, and then it's just a slog from there. I do put 5 witches out here to try and hold that objective, get the permanent control. They do survive long enough to do that. The Whirlwind, thankfully, did not do too much all game to me. That was parked back here. And it was a very good game, very technical, very well fought game. Thoroughly enjoyed playing Michael from Vanguard Tactics. So that was an awesome game. So that's kind of what I wanted to know. It was a fighting shenanigans over here, and it was a wrapping shenanigans over here, and how I dealt with them. And I just kind of accepted that. If nothing else, it's very difficult to screen on 6 inches from a raider with only 15 Marine models. I also do explode with that raider as well, which I think killed one, which helped a little bit. Particularly in the building, because remember, it's 6 inches from any part of the raider's model, which means I can disembark on the top floor as well. He had one model on the middle floor here, which blocked me from getting the full 10 witches out. But if I was short for space, the succubus could happily disembark there. But yeah, it was a very, very good game, and it was just the luck of the dice that Michael failed his fight first power. My plan was, if he had gotten that off, would have been not to leave that objective and pressure this one instead. Pressure the one that's over here instead. Kill the Ironclad, kill that, just because this objective, it's so far from my home objective. Even though the Deathwatch and they're moving quite far, I was okay with them running after me. And in the end, it just became a fight to control this objective in the end, because this one I could hide from his plasma inceptors and whatever he had left. But yeah, so that was that game. So scorecard for this one, Stranglehold, I didn't quite get it every turn. There's one turn where I think I failed an advance or something to try and get up there. The primary control was tight, only 15 points in it. Otara Data, I was able to max it. I had to sacrifice a unit of Hellions, my unit of Hellions with the Strength drug, to go into his backfield and grab that for me. To the last was, of course, the 15, because my court and Trooper were never really threatened that entire game. For Michael, he took Stranglehold, Suffer Not the Alien, and Assassination. There was one turn where he wasn't able to kill anything, but he was able to get good points. But yeah, I think it was a rough mission. Failing that psychic power, which he really shouldn't fail with the CP, was rough for him. So yeah, if Michael ever watches this, thank you for the game, Michael. Hope to play again in the next tournament that we both attend. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right, we're going to move on to the round 3, which was against Knights. This was, I think, just after my turn 2 movement. I was a bit tired in the day, and it was against Marcus from Team England. And I had a good game against Marcus. It was a really cool army he was playing. It was Admech Metallica Knights, House Raven as well. Dave, if you're still watching, you're gonna like this one. I forgot or didn't ever know that House Raven Knights could advance and shoot dollar guns without penalty. Whoopsies. So yeah, I didn't really plan for that. I think my secondary choices probably lost me this game. But I also got a little bit diced with Knight Explosions. So Marcus's Knights, he had the Castle with Cause of Wrath and the Permanent 4 from Vulnerable. He had Endless Fury Knight with 6s to hit auto wounds. That was rough. And then I think he had one Knight with the Rapid Fire Battle Cannon and the Gatling gun thing that Knights get. But yeah, this army is so cool. I am so tempted to just steal it and put it on the channel. Although I want to run a Knight Moirax instead of a Caston, because I think Moiraxes are funnier. And the idea of putting the plus 2 inches within. So there's a Warlord Drake House Raven, which is 6-inch aura for House Raven Knights, plus 2-inch move. Plus 2-inch advance and plus 2-inch charge. The idea of a potential movement 22 inches Knight with the stratagem, which can then shoot all of its guns. They can't charge after this auto advance 8-inch stratagem, but you know, it just sounds cool. It just sounds funny. And on these boards, he was creaming Thomas. I mean, he told me I think his first game was the opponent got 5 points, in the second game the opponent's got 12 points. So yeah, for this mission we are back on Overrun. As you can see by the terrain, it's very similar to the one where I played Ricard on. And yeah, so let's go grab the terrain from the Rose Pack as per usual. And I will screenshot it. Once my computer catches up. So yeah. So I went for I think it was raise banners to the last and oh, just gone past it. Raise banners to the last and heard the prey, and I decided, and Marcus went for engage no fronts, grind them down, and assassination. So my plan was to sit back, let the knights come to me. When they get to me, charge them with incubi, kill them with incubi. They're no invulnerable save in combat. Incubi can shred them apart with a +1 to wound from Dazar, and with a bit of luck, maybe an Archon nearby giving real ones to hit. So with that in mind, I deployed my Night Boat. Oh, go back to brushes. My Incubi boat here. Got first turn, moved it up to sit in this building, like so. And I was told he could advance and shoot. I did not realize he had an auto advanced stratagem. I was there thinking to myself, he's gonna need a really good advance to see with his knights that were deployed back here. He's gonna need like a really soft like 5 or 6 to get there. Oh boy, did he get them! He also put a Sicarian Invader there to just make my disembarkation zone smaller. But as we know, raiders are really annoying and very hard to stop them disembarking. So I ended up having to line this wall here with Incubi, and then there's Zargot on this side within the 3 inches to get character protection, so Marcus couldn't shoot him. So Marcus ended up putting his castle in like so, and the Crusader, or whatever you call him, like so. There was a gap in the middle. So that was basically turn 1. Also, the other knight in his list was up like so, pressuring this flank here, and I was already bodyguard holding. I was able to get banners up on all 3 objectives turn 1. So my plan was to deal with these 2 knights as quickly as possible, get up here, and take this off of him. Mirror what he's doing to me here. And I was going to repeat what I did to Ricard with the court when it got low. Jump it in a raider. Don't care about the corners of that raider. Just jump it into a raider and put it into this guy. However, when the turn which you saw in the photograph where the Incubi made their heroic charge out of the building into the 2 knights here, and the witches were up here to block the overwatch, I also had some Hellions down here that came in from Deep Strike. This is the Strength Hellions to make the 9 inch charge into the Castellan. A few things happened. One, I charged in the witches first, and I used the no overwatch stratagem to block the overwatch on both of the knights. That was one of 2 plays I could have done, and I'll just into the second. So charge witches in first. They go round the back to make plenty of space for the Incubi because they did have that gap in the middle, and just tag both knights. However, that loses the Cult of Strife +1 to charge, which means the Hellions that deployed in my deployment zone, coming in from Deep Strike, had to hit the hard line, which I failed. Drazar went in, happy days. And then the 2 units Incubi went into the other knight, who were previously wounded from shooting. The better play for this charge would have been the witches going in first. So the witches going in first. Sorry, the Hellions going in first, using the no overwatch stratagem on them, because I actually rolled 2 8s here, and then they can sit like that. Then Drazar can go like that, and then using the 5 witches as a sacrificial lamb, charging them into this knight here, and saying to Marcus, "Do you want to overwatch them? Because I don't care if 50 points worth of witches dies when I've got nine incubi ready to charge in and mess you up like that. There. So because this is also round 2, I didn't have my +1 to hit. So the -1 to hit in combat kind of sucked for my incubi. Jazar, he was rerolling everything. He got a bit unlucky where I think he missed 4 attacks, but he did a bunch of damage to that Castellan. The 9 incubi ended up killing the smaller knight. The smaller knight then exploded, killing Drazar, who had already previously lost some wounds to some infiltrators before, killing a squad of incubi and half killing the next squad. Killed the witches. Lucky didn't reach the Hellions, but the Hellions were dead the next turn anyway when that Castellan just walked away from the smoking corpse of Drazar and shot the Hellions away. That Castellan eventually ended up in my deployment zone. Let's just clear this all away. That Castellan that was there, then moved around the corner to here, ended up sitting there, threatening my Trueborn, being in right pain, really, and I had to kill him in combat with my Fighting Archon. I forgot to get out the Fighting Archon, but fortunately Marcus had no CP to interrupt anyway. So I didn't have the guaranteed no interrupt going on. So then that night also blew up in my face, rolling the 2d6, and one of the sixes showed, so did a bunch of damage to me, and it just really sucked losing that many points. My other squad of Hellions tried to go for a Hail Mary play where they charged, they deployed like that, and they tried to get the charge into the Skittle Rangers and a Skittle Marshal that were standing like this on the objective. But they failed that charge. So all in a rough game. Meanwhile, this night on this board half was just coming in, making plays, and then also going back, like so, with the auto event strat to shoot down at the Hellions when they appeared. Yeah, so rough game, but close loss. Regardless, I made it as close as I could. So it was a 20-point victory to Marcus there. So Banner's doing pretty well for myself. Heard the play doing pretty well for myself. To the last, losing, I think only my Blackheart Trueborn survived the shooting from the Knights. What I should have taken was I should have dropped to the last and gone for Titan Hunter. I would have netted 4 points more straight away without changing up my game style at all. But not taking to the last, I could have gone really hard into them instead of hiding. But yeah, well, on Marcus, really fun list it looks like to play. Definitely want to pick it up for the channel if I ever get the opportunity to do so. So I'm going to jump on to the next game straight away. If you have any questions, put it down in the chat below. I'll do my best to answer them. The next game, Game 4, I got into Ricard again! Yay! Admech card, flashbacks from round 3 of the RTT. Different mission though, this time it was a priority target. So you can see here, this was us after moving the objective. I had previously worked out coming to this event that there was no way you could move my home objective away far enough so I could not Slith Bodyguard hold it with an Archon. So I was fine moving his objectives away from him and bringing them closer to me, so I had more play for the Stranglehold. I did screen out this time properly using the Mandrakes. You can see them in the kind of right hand side of this photograph here. Not too much to talk about here. This game was really just kind of a case of trying a few things, trying to use the Blood Rise in the middle of the board to wrap and trap and force a teleport, which they did. Trying to go for the charges from Deep Strike again with the Hellions, which they failed. My only mistake I think I made here was where I put the incubi. So I'll just talk about this real quick because it won't take too long. The incubi are over here by the chess clock in the bottom of the photograph. The witches are over here by the court. They should have been swapped because then my incubi raider could have jetted off over here and been safe as houses, and they could then fight here. The witches have the speed to make that with some reliability. Incubi, not so much. So Incubi, we need the raider to help them. But also, Ricard never really came past his Chessex dice set tier in terms of going to the Incubi. So the Incubi never really had the charge out to get them. And also, they're just going to get overwatched. So yeah, so that was that game in a nutshell. Ricard just outplayed me. He stood on objectives better than I did. There's not really too much to talk about here. We'll take a look at the scorecard. So I took Stranglehold, Priority Targets, and to the last. It's heard the phrase a bad choice in diagonal missions, so I took Stranglehold instead, and I couldn't really ever shift him off of objectives, off the middle, which is why I said what the Incubi, if they were up there quicker, they could have helped out. The only units I ever really fought in there was the Archon and the Blood Brides. The Succubus never even made it in. And to the last, I got the 15 on because Ricard never needed to chase. Ricard to the last, priority targets and retrieve tires data. So yeah, yeah, well done to Ricard. Second win. We spoke about the game a little bit and got some pointers from him, which I've echoed back to you. He also said that the Kronos build for Drukhari is much scarier for the Advent card, so I'll be looking into that for Leicester, I think. And yeah, so, but this time narrower loss, only 14 points in it, so close the gap by about 5 points. Moving swiftly on to game 5, Admech card again. This game, there's a few things to talk about here. And there's a few kind of meta tournament things to talk about here, and case of just like how you approach games in general. So I was kind of disheartened I've gone from going 2 wins and straight into 2 losses. I was disheartened, I was a bit down, but I was ready to turn it around, ready to try and beat the Admech card for the first time. So I set up much in the same way as I did with Victor. And his War Eaters, if you can remember back that far, with the Incubi Raider and the Witch Raider right on the line, ready to go in. And this was a very aggressive Admech army. It was right in my face, lots of riders, lots of infiltrators. I assumed that because Drazar had already survived around with Sicarians, he would do it again. He didn't. He died to mortal wounds, which I was not expecting. It wasn't Wrath of Mars, it was just the weapons were mortal wounds. Then so when this raider got popped by the chickens that advanced down this side and shot him like that, Drazar got out here, and then you had a unit of Fight Last, Sicarian Ruststalkers over there. They ran out, they charged in, they killed Drazar. So that was rough. So at that point, I knew I had a proper game in my hands, and it was going to be bad. He threw a unit of 10 Vanguard onto the middle. This is a veteran cohort, by the way, so they've all got 5 of them runnable. I knew my top priority was to clear out the Sicarians that were around my middle building, and shoot off whatever dog was or wherever these horsey mechanical things that I could. So I had the court charge out, tag riders wherever I could, had a raider go out and move block 1 the set over here like that. and just kept putting the pressure on. But there's a couple of things that really flustered me, and I want to talk about that for a second. And this kind of serious stream time. I had moved out and advanced the core, the black heart. They can do that turn 1 to get the easy charge off. I'd already baited the move away stratagem with the fighter Yarkon, who I moved from this building to this building. So a unit of horses that was like this moved to over here. Then the court charged the one that didn't move away because they were only a few inches away. Got a nice big charge, and I flung a single Sith out with incoherency to go and tag it. I couldn't get it so that the other unit was the closest enemy model. But I was 3.5 inches away from the unit I'd already tagged. I was 2.5 inches away from the unit I'd already tagged, and 3.5 inches the one I wanted to tag. So I moved in such a manner so that the one that I wanted to tag was closer, and I could then go in coherency that way. My opponent said I couldn't do that because the rule was in their interpretation of the rules was that you had to finish directly closer towards the closest enemy model. I said no, I just had to end up closer. I tried explaining it, and my opponent kept talking over me. We had an argument about it right at the start of the game, after his first turn, and I said, right, we have gone on about this for a while. Let's go get a judge. He refused to, so I said, okay, then I've won this argument because we're not going. You have refused to let me get a judge. When it came to the consolidation, it was brought up again. I said, should we get a judge again? And said no. My opponent said no. This is when I should have just gone and gotten a judge straight away. But yeah, so that kind of put a sting in the game. There's another thing where the runes in the middle, the board, were a defense line, which means 200 engagement, and I was using that to engage him with my blood brides, and he kept saying you can't do that, and I kept saying I can. I showed him the wording in the book, and that was fine, but it was just that string of arguments made me frustrated enough to forget a couple of things, and made me frustrated enough to go for the kill on a unit when I should have gone for the wrap and trap with Morven's Agonizer. So let's look at the score sheet and see how that impacted the game. You notice that I only rodded 3 times total. You would think I didn't rod in the opponent's quarter. I did. I rodded with the unit of Hellions. I didn't rod in my own quarter. Even when in round 2, when I had nothing else to do for rod, I had a unit of Hellions sitting there waiting to move up the following turn. Yeah. That was bad. This is also the only game of the weekend I didn't play in a chess clock, and we were running out of time, and I know it wasn't me. I know that I wasn't the reason why we're running out of time. So I should have put it on chess clock, I should have double checked, and I should have just slapped one on the table at the start, as I always do. But yeah, because we're running out of time in round 4, I moved the raider incorrectly, so I couldn't get Stranglehold and Reckless out. Had I rodded properly, and had I done my round 4 movements properly, I would have quite easily have gotten the win here, because that would have been +4 +10 plus 10 points to me, giving me an 89-88 victory. Yeah. But hey, what can you do? This was ultimately the 8th game of 40k I had played in 3 days. I was tired. I was probably a little bit hungover at this point, just from ablative booze, drinking, and yeah, so it's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, that was so those are my games. So we're gonna take a little breather here for a few minutes. Let the stream catch up. You can ask me any questions. You can come to me with any comments you have on the game. Is anything where you've kind of seen I could have improved on, and then we'll just do a little quick chat until about 10 o'clock about the tournament in general. Give it a wee bit longer for our stream to catch up. I don't know why there's such a delay, because I didn't set a delay in the stream at all. Maybe it's a stream latency setting. Ha. So I'm just going to start talking about the tournament in general. Starting off with the terrain. From what I gather, significant improvement on previous years for the terrain. So, and I think everyone in general was happier with it. I think that's a fair statement to say. For me personally, let me go Big Chris for this. Once I find my cursor. And this is where hopefully you don't say in the chat. You can't hear me again. Yeah. So the train, I think in general was quite a bit better. However, for me, the lack of proper dents, we had this obstacle dents from the walls, but that only applies a -1 to hit if you're within 3 inches of it, which is kind of rare that you are, because they're so out in the open and so out of the way. So that was always a bit weird. Also, you had to be behind it, not just within 3 inches of it. So I want to see some proper forests and some proper craters. I want to see some difficult ground terrain brought into the mix. Like, I know they have these giant, like, massive industrial vents. What I would do is I would just take a good saw to them, a good motorized saw, cut them into 4, and then you've got kind of the perfect size, but that size industrial vents, and they can count as forests. And I know they've got a lot of those kicking about, because there's normally 2 for every board. If you've got 500 boards worth of terrain, that's 1,000 forests you've got. Actually more than that, 2,000 forests, because 500 times 4. So that's what I'd like to see them do with terrain. I also want to see them add one more medium-sized rune, the obscuring ones, if they're still not putting the small ones to be proper obscuring. In my opinion, all runes should all be obscuring, because I'm Scottish and that's what we do up here. Therefore, I'm inherently biased, but at the very least, there needs to be some more line of sight blocking terrain. I also want to see them do slightly more interesting things with those gigantic L's than just have them in this effectively the same position every single time and just changing the rotation of them. I wanted to see them in different spots. So, like, why not put them in your deployment zone for one mission? I don't know. Play around with them, have some fun. The other thing I want is, or alternatively, get rid of those gigantic L's. No, they won't, because of sunk cost fallacy. Make them 9x5s, and then put 4 on each board or 3 on each board, something like that, where the one's neutral and one's towards each player. The food for the event we've already hinted on, but we'll just say this in this meta section of the video. Yeah, food was pretty poor. I wouldn't be paying them any money for food in the future. I would just spend basically the same amount of money and just get food brought in, even if I have to go sit outside to eat it rather than the venue. I'm told off for that. The drink was good though. I liked the beer. That was good. The bar was good. The water though, the water was in these jugs things, and just like, would it be so much effort to run a temporary tap or something like that out to, or temporary water fountain for filling up bottles out to where the bar is? Maybe they could do that. In general, going to the super major was awesome. Really fun time. Lots of fun meeting different people, chatting different people. That was awesome. Playing against different types of players that I normally don't get to play against. Playing against very high level players. Twice against Ricard from Team Sweden. Once against Marcus of Team England, and Michael from Vanguard Tactics. That was awesome, and I really appreciated that opportunity. I see we've got a couple of questions in the chat now. So Fulvio asks, do you think a different terrain would have made it more difficult for those abusive admech lists? Yes, I think some difficult ground to slow them down would be good. I think some proper dense terrain would be good just to mitigate their shooting, but more importantly, just a couple more buildings to hide in would be so helpful. But I think I read in a Discord somewhere someone commented it's a fine balance between terrain that's so heavy where Drukhari are just so dominant because you can't ever see them, and then you got that meta, and terrain that's so light where admech are dominant, and we've seen the light hand side of the scale. Matty has asked, are you sticking with Deldar for the other majors? That depends entirely on whether they will listen to the feedback that I think a lot of people will be giving them regarding the terrain being too light. I think if they say it's going to be increasing, I will be looking seriously at a Chronos build. And there's one other build which is like super memey and very point scoring, including 9 Venoms that I'm looking at as well. But yeah, so having chatted to Ricard quite a lot over the weekend, playing 2 games with him, he says that the Chronos build gives Admech Horde a lot of trouble. So maybe that's the way to go. If it's Planet Bowling Ball again, I'm just going to go to a Marine Gunline list and just shoot people. Playing Drukhari in those boards wasn't the funnest when you're paired into Admech type lists. In the Grey Knights and the Deathwatch, it was okay, even though you're being shot at a lot there. It wasn't the same oppression level of firepower. Give it a few more minutes for any more questions. Let me know in the chat if you're going to any of these LGT majors. I would love to see y'all there. Even though I know most of my viewers already. Couple more minutes for any more questions. If you went to the LGT and you want to say your experiences in the chat, feel free, go for it. You're painting some. So Fulvio says they're painting some Drukhari for Nottingham GT. But you're looking at two attempts, two Talos. I'm assuming that's in a real space raid with the -1 damage taken obsession. Talos, I rate them. They can be very good. I've run a unit. I've ran a unit of 2 in the past in the game, and that was really fun. Just watching people bounce off of them, and they just slap things about. That was fun. Not sure how they will be for Nottingham, because I think Nottingham is January. I am going to Nottingham. So I'll see you down there. You're very welcome, Rastar. More than happy to give the overview and dissection of each game. It helps me reflect on it, if nothing else. Any tips for someone using one of the weaker codexes on such an open board? I would normally hide and play to the mission. I think that is exactly the best thing you can do. I'm not sure what you play, so I don't know what exactly you mean by weaker codexes, because there are fortunately a few of them out there. But yes, I would build to score points. The biggest thing for the LGT is that, unlike what we normally do up here in Scotland, which is mostly differential scoring, you don't have to win big. 1 point is enough to get you the victory. So if you build to score like 100 points every game, no matter what you play, you should always win or draw your games, right? So go for that. Ideally, in a Prophet of Flesh. Talos and the Prophet of Flesh can work. When I ran my Talos in the game, I went for full on offensiveness. So I ran them as +1 strength and 6s to hit explode. So they were just blendering things. I also brought along a homunculus to give them +1 toughness and the heal. The Chronos build I'm kind of looking at is basically the Chronos and Incubi all the damage, and you've got a couple of succubuses with the competitive edge, razor flails, precision blows, trip whip, all the good stuff. But yeah, so Prophets of Flesh Talos can certainly work with the transhuman up until strength 8, but a lot of things in the meta which would worry your Talos are kind of strength 8, or they're running them on 5s anyway these days. So I don't think Prophets of Flesh is quite what you want to run them as. Unless you're also wanting to bring in Urian for that +1 strength aura, then maybe, but then that's a lot of points. I would personally run them as either the full offensive build or the -1 damage build. But anyway, that is 10:05. I am knackered, and I've got an episode of Squid Game to watch before bed. Thank you very much to everyone who came out to hang out with me this evening for my first stream. Thank you for sticking through the teething issues. I really appreciate it, and we will do more of these breakdown streams in the future. And when I get internet done in my garage, I will be doing some painting streams on a regular basis, and I've got content coming on the channel soon. I have spent my time on trains writing up a schedule, and yeah, I think I can stick to it this time. Fingers crossed. Basically, I'm aiming to do a shorter tactic video with a bit more thought into it once a week, and then because I can't get the overhead camera going in my garage, we're going to go to a 90-minute video format for battle reports, and that'll be once every fortnight. So yeah, peace out. Thanks for joining me.